Duck is very proud of being Great Western. He talks endlessly about it, but works hard too, and makes everything go like clockwork. It was a splendid day. The trucks and coaches behaved well. The passengers even stopped grumbling. But the engines didn't like having to bustle about. There are two ways of doing things, Doc told them. The Great Western way or the wrong way. I'm Great Western and don't we know it, they groaned. The engines were glad when a visitor came. He purred smoothly towards them. The Fat Controller introduced him. Here is Diesel. I have agreed to give him a trial. He needs to learn. Please teach him, Doc.
Good morning, purred Diesel in an oily voice. Pleased to meet you, Doc. Is that James and Henry and Gordon too? I am delighted to meet such famous engines.
The silly engines were flattered. He has very good manners, they murmured. We are pleased to have them in our yard. Duck had his doubts. Come on, he said. Diesel purred after him. Your worthy fat... Sir Topham Hat to you, ordered Duck. Diesel looked hurt.
Your worthy Sir Topham Hat thinks I need to learn. He is mistaken. We Diesels don't need to learn. We know everything. We come to a yard and improve it. We are revolutionary.
Oh, said Duck, if you're rather thingagummy, perhaps you would collect my trucks while I fetch Gordon's coaches. Diesel, delighted to show off, purred away. When Duck returned, Diesel was trying to take some trucks from a siding. They were old and empty. They had not been touched for a long time. Diesel found them hard to move. Pull! Push! Backwards! Forwards! Oh! The trucks groaned. We can't! We won't! Duck watched with interest. Diesel lost patience. Hurr! Grrr! He roared and gave a great heave. The trucks jerked forward. Oh! Oh! They screamed. We can't! We won't! Some of their brakes snapped and the gear jammed in the sleepers. Hurr! Grrr! Ho ho ho! Chuckled Duck. Diesel recovered and tried to push the trucks back, but they wouldn't move. Duck ran quietly around to collect the other trucks. Thank you for arranging these, Diesel. I must go now.
Don't you want this lot?
No, thank you. Diesel gulped.
And I've taken all this trouble. Why didn't you tell me?
You never asked me. Besides, said Duck, you were having such fun being Rev whatever it was you said. Goodbye.
Arr, arr.
Diesel had to help the workmen clear the mess. He hated it. All the trucks were laughing and singing at him. Trucks are waiting in the yard, tackling them with ease. I'll show the world what I can do, gaily boasts the Diesel. In and out he creeps about like a bleak-back weasel. When he pulls the wrong trucks out, pop goes the Diesel.
Arr, grrr,
growled Diesel, and he scuttled away to sulk in the shed. Diesel, the new engine, was sulking. The trucks would not stop singing rudely at it. Duck was horrified. "Shut up," he ordered, and bumped them hard. "I'm sorry our trucks were rude to you, Diesel." Diesel was still furious.
It's your fault. You made them laugh at me.
"Nonsense," said Henry. "Duck would never do that. We engines have our differences, but we never talk about them to the trucks. That would be disgraceful," said Gordon. "Disgusting," said James. "Despicable," said Henry. Diesel hated Duck. He wanted him to be sent away, so he made a plan. He was going to tell lies about Duck. Next day, he spoke to the trucks.
I see you like jokes. You made a good joke about me yesterday. I laughed and laughed. Duck told me one about Gordon. I'll whisper it. Don't tell Gordon I told you.
And he sniggered away. "Oh, ho, ho, ho," gorfed the trucks. "Gordon will be cross with Duck when he knows. Let's tell him and pay Duck out for bumping us." They laughed rudely as the engines went by. Soon, Gordon, Henry, and James found out why. "Disgraceful," said Gordon. "Disgusting," said James. "Despicable," said Henry. "We cannot allow it." They consulted together. "Yes," they said. "He did it to us. We'll do it to him and see how he likes it." Duck was tired out. The trucks had been cheeky and troublesome. He wanted a rest in the shed. But the three engines barred his way. Whoosh! "Keep out!" "Stop fooling," said Duck. "I'm tired." "So are we. We're tired of you. We like Diesel. We don't like you. You tell tales about us to the trucks." "I don't." "You do." "I don't." "You do." The Fat Controller came to stop the noise. "Duck called me a galloping sausage," spluttered Gordon. "Rusty red scrap iron," hissed James. "I'm old square wheels," fumed Henry. "Well, Duck?" Duck considered. "I only wish, sir," he said gravely, "that I'd thought of those names myself, if the dome fits." "He made trucks laugh at us," accused the engines. The Fat Controller recovered. He'd been trying not to laugh himself. "Did you, Duck?" "Certainly not, sir. No steam engine would be as mean as that." Diesel lurked up. "Now, Diesel, you heard what Duck said."
I can't understand it, sir.
"To think the Duck of all engines! I'm dreadfully grieved, sir, but know nothing." "I see," said the Fat Controller. Diesel squirmed and hoped he didn't. "I'm sorry, Duck, but you must go to Edward Station for a while. I know he'll be pleased to see you." "As you wish, sir." Duck trundled sadly away, while Diesel smirked with triumph. Duck the Great Western Engine puffed sadly to Edward's station. It's not fair, he complained. Diesel has been telling lies about me and made the Fat Controller and all the other engines think I'm horrid. Edward smiled. I know you aren't, and so does the Fat Controller. You wait and see. Why don't you help me with these trucks? Duck felt happier with Edward and set to work at once. The trucks were silly, heavy, and noisy. The two engines had to work hard, pushing and pulling them all afternoon. But at last they reached the top of the hill. Goodbye, whistled Duck, and rolled gently over the crossing to the other line. Duck loved coasting downhill, running easily with the wind whistling past. Suddenly, it was a guard's warning whistle. Hurrah, 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 laughed the trucks. We've broken away, we've broken away. Chase him, bump him, throw him off the rails, they yelled. Hurry, Duck, hurry, said the driver. They raced through Edward Station, but the trucks were catching up. As fast as we can, then they'll catch us gradually. The driver was gaining control. Another clear mile and we'll do it. Oh, glory, look at that. James was just pulling out onto their line from the station ahead. Any minute there could be a crash. It's up to you now, Duck, cried the driver. Duck put every ounce of weight and steam he had against the trucks. It's too late, Duck groaned, and shut his eyes. He veered into a siding where a barber had set up shop. He was shaving a customer. The silly trucks had knocked their guard off his van and left him far behind after he'd whistled a warning. But the trucks didn't care. They were feeling very pleased with themselves. Beg pardon, sir, gasped Duck. Excuse my intrusion. No, I won't, said the barber. You frighten my customers. I'll teach you. And he lathered Duck's face all over. Poor Duck. Thomas was helping to pull the trucks away when the Fat Controller arrived. I do not like engines popping through my walls, fumed the barber. I appreciate your feelings, said the Fat Controller, but you must know that this engine and his crew have prevented a serious accident. It was a very close, shave. Oh, said the barber. Oh, excuse me. He filled a basin of water to wash Duck's face. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were being a brave engine. That's all right, sir. I didn't know either. You were very brave indeed, said the Fat Controller. I'm proud of you. The Fat Controller watched the rescue operation. Then he had more news for Duck. And when you are properly washed and mended, you're coming home. Home, sir? Do you mean the yard? Of course. But, sir, they don't like me. They like Diesel. Not now. I never believed Diesel, so I sent him packing. The engines are sorry and want you back. A few days later, when he came home, there was a really rousing welcome for Duck the Great Western Engine. Percy and Duck like working at the harbor by the sea. On a clear summer's night, there's no better place to be. The big ships bring passengers. Cargo ships carry machinery and other things. Duck and Percy puffed backwards and forwards with crates of cargo as they were loaded and unloaded by the quayside. One morning, Duck and Percy noticed that the horizon was packed with sails flapping against the blue sky. "I wish I could sail to faraway lands," sighed Duck. "Engines can't go sailing," snorted Percy, "because engines can't float." Duck still had dreams, but suddenly they were rudely interrupted. "Wakey, wakey," hovered Harold. "I'm looking at the boats," replied Duck. "That's the regatta. Lots of boats, lots of races, great fun. I hover around in case I'm needed." "Do you go to the horizon?" asked Duck. "Yes, and beyond." "I didn't know there was a beyond," whispered Percy. "Don't you go to other places at sea?" continued Duck. "Certainly, I can land on ships, you know, anywhere, anytime. Goodbye." Duck sighed. He went on talking about the regatta all day. Percy lost patience. "Well, Duck, I'd rather have my wheels on solid ground. Our rails can take us all to the places we could ever wish to see." "That's an emergency," called Duck's driver. "I'll check with the harbor master." He returned with bad news. "A man taking part in the regatta has hurt his hand. We're to take him to the hospital at the next station. Harold's bringing him now. Come on." "Good to see you again, Duck," whirled Harold as he landed carefully on the platform. The man was gently helped to safety. "My job is to stay at sea in case of other emergencies. Otherwise, I would take this gentleman to hospital myself. Must fly. Goodbye." Duck set off on his journey. Soon he was steaming well and his wheels were thundering along the track. When they reached the station, the man thanked everyone and Birdie got ready to take him to hospital. "You look splendid flying along the line, Duck," glowed Birdie. "No wonder they call you Great Western." "Thank you, Birdie. Percy's right," he thought to himself. "Engines are the happiest when their wheels are firmly on the rails." That night, Percy and Duck stayed a little longer at the quay. The air was warm and the sea calm. "There's a shooting star," said Duck. "Don't be daft," laughed Percy. "It's Harold. Look, he's hovering overhead." Something fluttered down towards Duck. His driver caught it. "It's a flag from the regatta. Harold's giving it to you as a present, Duck." "That was kind of Harold," whispered Duck. "He may have whirly arms instead of wings, but he seems to understand just what an engine needs." Duck still wonders about the lands beyond the horizon, but we think he knows that sometimes the best travels are those we can only dream about. Don't you? One day, Edward was talking to Trevor when Douglas steamed by. He was pulling a train of heavy coal trucks.
Come on, Edward. Stop gossiping in the sun when there's work to be done.
Later, Edward spoke to Douglas.
Trevor and I are old friends, and you and he have a lot in common too.
Ah, aye. And what would that be?
Scrap.
Douglas gasped.
Don't mention that word. It makes me wheels wobble. It does the same to Trevor. He was being sent to the scrapyard, but the vicar and I saved him, and now he's really useful again. Even so, Sir Topham Hatt certainly does need another steam engine here.
Aye, he does, and quickly. That night, Douglas was still working. He'd taken the midnight goods train to a station at a faraway part of the island where only the diesels work. He was just shunting, ready for his return journey, when...
That sounds like a steam engine.
The hiss came again.
Who's there?
A whisper came.
Are you a Fat Controller's engine?
I am proud of it.
Oh, thank goodness. I'm Oliver and this is my brake van Toad. We've run out of coal and have no more steam. But what are you doing? Escaping. From what? Scrap.
Douglas shivered. Then he remembered Edward's story about saving Trevor.
I'll be glad to help you. It'll have to look as though you're ready for scrap and I'm taking you away.
Their drivers and firemen agreed to help too. Everyone worked fast.
No time to turn around. I'll run tender first. Come on. But before they could clear the station, they were stopped. Aha! A Great Western engine and a brake van too. You can't take these. But they're all for us. See for yourself.
The foreman looked all over Oliver. It seems in order. Right away, guard. That was a near thing.
We've had worse.
And they forged ahead. It was daylight when their journey ended.
We're home. Shh, they're in the works. I'll find a place for Oliver. Goodbye and thank you.
Douglas puffed away. The next day, Douglas told all the other engines about Oliver. The Fat Controller would have to know. Douglas should tell him at once. Well, here he is. Now, what's this all about? I beg your pardon, sir, but we do need another engine. Yes, sir, a steam engine, sir.
I'm afraid that unless one is safe from scrap, there's little hope.
But, sir, one has. Yes, indeed, and thanks to you, Douglas, he is now at our works. Oliver is just what we need for Duck's branch line. Everyone cheered. Now Oliver and Toad are mended and painted in full Great Western colors. Duck and Oliver are happy to have their branch line. The others laughed at first and called it the Little Western. But Duck and Oliver were delighted, and so the Little Western it will always be. On a clear day when the sky is blue and there is just enough breeze to blow the clouds away, you can stand on the big hill above the valley and watch Duck and Oliver far below, busily at work on Duck's branch line near the sea. The two engines are very proud of their matching coats of gleaming color. Oliver often talks about the time that Douglas saved him from scrap. "If it wasn't for his help," Oliver will say, "I might have been caught when I ran away from the scrapyard, and I never would have come here to live on the Fat Controller's railway." The other engines all wanted to know about Oliver's adventures. "Amazing," remarked Henry. "Oliver," said James, "has resource." "And sagacity," put in Gordon. "What does that mean?" whispered Percy. "I think," replied Thomas, "it's about being clever and wise." "He is," finished Gordon, "an example to us all." We're sorry to say that Oliver became very puffed up in the smoke box after this. "Henry says I'm amazing, he's right," he whistled as he swooshed along the line. One morning, the Fat Controller came to see him. "You are doing well. Now you must learn how to look after trucks." Every wise engine knows you cannot trust trucks. The other engines warned Oliver, but he took no notice. "You think I can't manage," he said huffily. "Gordon knows better. He says I'm sagacious." "You may be good gracious or whatever you call it, but trucks can be troublesome and—" "Say no more, Doc," interrupted Donald. "It's a pity, but the wee engine will just have to learn for himself." Oliver pushed some loaded trucks into a siding and pushed the empties under the chute. Then he came back to take the loaded trucks away, but they were comfortable and didn't want to move. "What right has he to poke his funnel in here? We want Duck, or Donald, or Douglas." "Look sharp," huffed Oliver. "That's not the way to speak," hissed the trucks. "Pay him out." Oliver heard nothing. The trucks moved smoothly at first, then suddenly Oliver felt them push forward. His driver applied the brakes, but they were useless against the surging trucks. "On, on!" yelled the trucks. Oliver fought hard, but they still forced him on and on. At last, the trucks grew tired. "I'm winning," gasped Oliver, but it was too late. Oliver lay bruised and bemused, bunker down in the turntable well. Duck surveyed the damage. "Hello, Oliver. Are you being a good, gracious engine? Beg pardon, but we really don't like this sort of surprise. Donald and Douglas will miss their turntable until it's mended." That evening, Oliver was hauled gently to safety. "I'm sorry, sir," he said to the Fat Controller. "I should have listened to Duck's advice. I don't feel good, gracious, or whatever it is now. I just feel silly." "Well, Oliver," replied the Fat Controller, "now you know the damage trucks can do." "Yes, I do, sir. I must look like a load of scrap iron." "Ho, ho, ho, I don't think, sir," laughed Sir Topham Hatt, "but you do need to go to the works to be mended." The other engines now felt sorry for Oliver. "The branch line won't be the same without you," whistled Duck. "Come back soon." A few days later, Oliver did come back. His coat gleamed brighter than ever. He was a wiser engine too, and never made a mistake about trucks again. Oliver had been to the works to be mended. Some troublesome trucks had tricked him, and the Great Western engine fell into a turntable well. Now Oliver was as good as new, but he was still worried about trucks. "I'd rather not use them," he puffed to himself. But the trucks sang songs rude and loud. Scruffy, their leader, led the chorus. "Oliver's no use at all, he thinks he's very clever, says that he can manage us, that's the best joke ever. When he orders us about with the greyest folly, we just push him down a well. Pop goes old Ollie." Thomas, Duck, and Percy were shocked. "Be quiet," they ordered. But they couldn't be everywhere, and everywhere they weren't, the trucks began again. At last, the engines gave up. "We're sorry, Oliver," they said. "It's really my fault. I shouldn't have fallen into the turntable well." Toad the brake van felt sorry for Oliver too. Next morning, he spoke to Douglas. "I'm worried, Mr. Douglas. This disrespect for engines, where's it going to end?" "Who knows?" sighed Douglas. "I've got a plan, Mr. Douglas. May I stay here today and help Mr. Oliver? We're both Great Western and must stand together." "Of course, Toad," replied Douglas and puffed away. Soon Toad was explaining his plan. "Goodness gracious, Toad! I don't think you should suggest such a thing to Oliver." But Oliver interrupted. "No, Doug, Toad's right. It's really my fault. I must put this trouble right. I mean no disrespect, you understand." "Of course not, Toad. Anyway, Driver says the same, and he's arranged it with the station master." "Very well, Oliver," conceded Duck, "but I must hurry. My passengers will be waiting. Good luck." "So long," smiled Oliver bravely, but he felt dreadfully nervous inside. Oliver marshaled the worst trucks 2 by 2. "That's the way, Mr. Oliver," whispered Toad, "and if you leave that Scruffy till last, you'll have him behind you. Then you can bump him if he starts his nonsense." hold back," whispered Scruffy, and passed the word to the others. The silly trucks giggled. But Oliver knew what to do. There was plenty of sand on the rails and his wheels gripped splendidly. He gave a great heave. "Ooh," groaned Scruffy, "I don't like this." "Go on," yelled Duck. "Well done, boy, well done." "Oh," groaned Scruffy. Oh, I'm coming apart." And he did. Then there was trouble. "Well, Oliver, so you don't know your own strength, is that it?" "I don't, sir," said Oliver nervously. The Fat Controller inspected Scruffy. "As I thought. Rotten wood, rusty frames. Maybe if we put you back together, you'll earn yourself a better name." Nowadays, Oliver only takes the trucks when the other engines are busy, but they're always quick to warn each other. "Take care of Mr. Oliver. If you play tricks on him, you'll never be the same truck again." Scruffy has learned his lesson and says nothing at all. Stepney the Bluebell engine was busy talking to the other engines. It was his first visit to the railway and he was having a splendid time. "You're very lucky engines," he said. "Your line has got everything. It's long enough to give you a good run, and you have plenty of passengers. Then you have a quarry and a mine, so you need plenty of trucks. Trucks are fun. I miss them on our line." Percy was surprised. All the engines thought trucks caused trouble. "You're welcome to take some of mine," he said, "but you'd better ask your driver first." Their drivers agreed and the two engines set off. Thomas and Toby were speechless. Stepney took the trucks to the harbor. Then he picked up a load of empty ones and started back. Ahead was a cricket field. The game had just begun. Stepney and his driver had to wait at a signal. "Good," said the driver. "We can watch the game." Then there was trouble. The batsman hit the ball. It flew high into the sky towards Stepney's train. Clunk went the signal. Thump went the ball into a truck, but neither the driver nor fireman heard it. "Stop!" yelled the players, but Stepney didn't hear them. Come along," he puffed to the trucks. "Our one and only ball," cried the players. "Wake up, Caroline," they said to their old car. "The chase is on." Caroline coughed crossly and rolled down the road. Stepney wasn't hurrying, so Caroline soon came up behind. "Toot toot," she wailed. The players shouted, but Stepney was still too far for his driver and fireman to see or hear properly. They completely misunderstood. "If those jokers want a race," said the driver, "they can have one. Faster, Stepney, faster." Poor Caroline wasn't happy at all. She rattled along at twice her usual speed. "I shouldn't be treated like this," she grumbled. "This pace is too hot for my system. It'll fuse all my circuits." Suddenly, Stepney was nowhere to be seen. "Hurrah! That silly train has run into a hole, so we can't catch it. I can go home now." But she couldn't. Her driver pounded Caroline on up the steep hill, and then down the other side towards the station. Stepney was already there when Caroline cluttered in. "We need our ball back," cried the players, and explained everything. The ball was nestled under some straw in the third truck from the van. "We found it," cried a player. "We're sorry," sighed the driver. "Ah, you couldn't help it," replied a player. "Now we must get back quickly." "You'll be lucky," said the driver. Caroline looks worn out, and she was. The driver spoke to the station master and the signalman, and they all agreed a plan. Soon they'd rolled Caroline onto a flatbed and a brake van was coupled behind. The players crowded inside and Stepney pulled the train back to the playing field. Everyone enjoyed watching the game. Even Caroline was pleased. She doesn't think trains are silly now. They have their uses. They can save the wear on a poor car's wheels. Stepney's visit to the Fat Controller's railway was coming to an end. "We shall miss you," said the Fat Controller. Then he turned his attention to the other engines. "My railway is very busy, and I'm pleased with you all, but you need help. A diesel is all that's available. Please do your best to avoid any, disturbances." "What does that mean?" whispered Duck. "That means this diesel is difficult," snapped James. And he was. The diesel surveyed the shed. "Not bad, I've seen worse. At least you're all clean." The engines glared. "It's not your fault, but the Fat Controller should scrap you and get engines like me. A fill of oil, a touch on the starter, and I'm off. No bother, no waiting. They have to fuss round you for hours before you're ready." The engines were furious. Next morning, they held an indignation meeting round the turntable. "Disgraceful," said Gordon. "Disgusting," said James. "Despicable," said Henry. "To say such things to us," cried Donald and Douglas. "It's to teach him a lesson we be wantin', but how do we do it?" Their chance came sooner than expected. The diesel was purring comfortably. An inspector watched a fitter making final adjustments. The wind tugged at the inspector's hat. The diesel was ready. "Look at me, Duck and Stepney. Now I'll show you something." He rolled proudly towards his coaches. Then it happened. Shaking and spluttering, the diesel stopped. Meanwhile, the inspector was looking for his hat. The diesel seethed with fury as Duck and Stepney pushed him back to the shed. "My hat!" exclaimed the inspector. "You've sucked it into your air intake." "Bother your hat," said the Fat Controller. "The train's due out. You'll have to take it, Duck and Stepney." "Thank you, sir," cried Stepney. "I'd like a good long run on my last day." The engines were soon ready. "Gordon will take over from halfway, so get the train to there. Good luck." "Don't worry, sir. We'll get there and be early, too." The cavalcade moved carefully over the rails and out onto the open line. "Now for a sprint," puffed Stepney. "I'm ready when you are," replied Duck. Soon they were whizzing through Edward Station. And next they charged at Gordon's Hill beyond. They felt the drag of the heavy coaches here. It was hard work. But at last they were running smoothly along the line towards the big station. "Hello, you're early," said Gordon. "That's one in the headlamp for old Diesel." "James says he's sick as boiler sludge and sulking in the shed." "Serves him right for saying we're out of date." And Gordon chortled away. The next day, everyone came to say goodbye to Stepney. "Come back and see us soon," whistled the engines. "And you're always welcome on my Bluebell Railway too," replied Stepney. Then he puffed away. And what about Diesel? Well, he slipped out when no one was looking. He said goodbye to no one but left two things behind: a rather nasty smell and a battered bowler hat.